Hi people, welcome to Everything Football with Success. In this video we're going to be talking about the just concluded first leg of the Champions League quarterfinals, and also we'll be talking about the weekend games from the top 5 football leagues. We're talking about the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga and League One. So stay tuned, don't touch that dial, don't leave your girl now, come on. Now let's dive right in and start with the highlights of Tuesday's match. Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Up Gunners! Arsenal won with 3 goals against the almighty Real Madrid that had no goal in the first leg of that competition. As some people saw it coming, that's because Real Madrid have not been in form compared to Arsenal that have sort of been consistent. They were third on the league's table, and Real Madrid had to go through the playoffs to be able to play the round of 16. So it was sort of expected, but then people still had hopes. That's because Real Madrid Champions League is the Champions League, and Champions League is like Real Madrid's heritage. I mean, they have 15 of this league's title, so it was expected that Real Madrid was going to perform even if they were not in form, but then it didn't work out this season for them. But then there's still the second leg, and if there's any club, there's any team that can turn this around, it is Real Madrid. They are the king of comebacks. And the Chelsea fan told me, sorry to Arsenal fans, that if there's any club that can bottle 3-goal leads, it is Arsenal. Come on. So this goes to show that the second leg is going to be interesting. We're going to talk more on this next week. Also on Tuesday, we had Bayern Munich host Inter Milan at the Allianz Arena, and it was 2 goals to Inter Milan and 1 goal to Bayern Munich. This means that for me, I see Inter Milan as the underdog of this year's competition. That's because people have not been paying attention to them, and they've been qualifying. Surprisingly, we might just see them at the finals. Next week, we'll talk more on this. And on Wednesday, Barcelona hosted Dortmund at the Camp Nou, and they won with 4 goals to nothing. This was not surprising to people. Barcelona have been in fantastic form, so it was expected, and I don't see anything Dortmund can do in their own. Next week we'll talk about this. Also on Wednesday, PSG hosted Aston Villa at the Parc des Princes Stadium, and they won with 3 goals against Aston Villa. They recorded 1, and it's surprising to know that PSG started the competition struggling, and now they are one of the favorites to win this year's competition. We will talk about this next week. Now to the weekend games. Starting off with the Premier League. For match day 32 on Saturday 12th April, we have Manchester City versus Crystal Palace starting off the day by 12:30, and by 3 o'clock we would have 3 matches playing at the same time. These are Southampton versus Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest versus Everton, and Brighton versus Leicester City. Then by 5:30 we would have Arsenal versus Brentford, which will be the last game for that day. And on Sunday 13th April, we would have Chelsea versus Ipswich Town by 2 o'clock. And at the same time, we would also have Wolves versus Tottenham, and Liverpool versus West Ham going head to head. And by 5:30, the last match for the day would be Newcastle versus Manchester United. And on Monday 14th April by 8 o'clock, Bournemouth would be playing Hull, and this will be the end of match day 32. In La Liga, that is the Spanish league, for match day 31, we have 1 match today, 11th April, and it's Valencia versus Sevilla by 8 p.m. And then tomorrow 12th April, we have Real Sociedad versus Mallorca by 1 p.m. We have Getafe versus Las Palmas by 3:15 p.m. and we have Celta Vigo versus Espanyol by 5:30 p.m. and the last match for the day would be Leganes versus Barcelona by 8 p.m. and on Sunday 13th we have Osasuna versus Girona by 1 p.m. We have Alaves versus Real Madrid by 3:15 p.m. and we have Real Betis versus Villarreal by 5:30 p.m. and the last match for the day will be Athletic Club versus Rayo Vallecano by 8 p.m. And on Monday, April 14th, we have Atletico Madrid versus Valladolid by 8 p.m. That is the end of match day 31. On to Serie A, which is the Italian league. For match day 32, we have one match today, 11th April, which is Udinese versus AC Milan by 7:45 p.m. And tomorrow, 12th April, we have Venezia versus Monza by 2 p.m. and Inter versus Cagliari by 5 p.m. and the last match for the day would be Juventus versus Leeds by 7:45 p.m. and on Sunday, April 13th, we have Fiorentina versus Parma by 2 p.m. Verona versus Genoa by 2 p.m. as well, and Como versus Torino by 5 p.m. and the last match for the day would be Lazio versus Roma by 7:45 p.m. and on Monday, 14th April, would have Napoli versus Empoli by 7:45 p.m. and this will be the end of match day 32. To the Bundesliga, which is the German league. For match day 29, we have one match today, 11th April, and it is Wolfsburg versus Leipzig by 7:30 p.m. and tomorrow we'll be having 5 matches that will be playing by 2:30 p.m. and they are Hoffenheim versus Mainz, Mönchengladbach versus Freiburg, Bochum versus Augsburg, Leverkusen versus Union Berlin, and Austin Kerr versus St. Pauli. Then by 5:30 tomorrow we'll be having Bayern Munich versus Dortmund. And on Sunday, 13 April, we'll be having Stuttgart versus Werder by 2:30 p.m. and by 4:30 we'll be having Frankfurt versus Heidenheim, which will be the last match for the day and the last match for match day 29. Lastly, it's Ligue 1, the French league. For match day 29, we'll be having one match today, 11 April, and it is Lens versus Reims by 7:45 p.m. and tomorrow we'll be having Monaco versus Marseille by 4 p.m. and Toulouse versus LOSC by 6 p.m. and lastly for tomorrow we'll be having Strasbourg versus Nice by 8:05 p.m. and on Sunday, 13th April, we'll be having Saint-Etienne versus Brest by 2 p.m. Angers versus Montpellier by 4:15 p.m. and Le Havre versus Reims by 4:15 p.m. as well. And lastly for that day, we'll be having Auxerre versus Lyon by 7:45 p.m. and that will be the end of match day 29. It is getting interesting. Next week we'll be finalizing on the second leg of the Champions League quarterfinals. It means that by next week we'll be having our semi-finalist and also we'll be talking about the weekend games. So please subscribe, like, comment and share all our content. Thank you for staying with us and don't touch that dial. Stay glued to this channel. See you next week.